Okay, so I think I found it. So we'll go ahead and we will dive right into this. So let's talk about using Aweber for email marketing in particular. And we're going to keep things simple in this presentation because when it comes to Aweber, that's what I suggest you do, is to really keep things simple. There are a lot of things you can do, a lot of things you can get into with email marketing that you can provide a lot of extra structure to what it is you're doing. But in many cases, when you're a solopreneur, you're one person and you're just trying to inform people about what it is that you're doing, whether it's one particular offer or in the future, you don't really need a lot of complexity. But this is where the action is your email marketing list, and you want to treat it as an asset. So when you put all of your subscribers at Aweber, you need to treat it as an asset. And so you work with it just as you would any other asset that you have. Aweber's not perfect, but it's good enough. So, if you start looking around for all the most perfect features, you're trying to look for all the bells and whistles. And this is what I mean when I say keeping things simple. If you start looking for a specific kind of automation because you've got a specific plan, I've never seen an automation that doesn't break. I've never seen an automation that works 100% of the time. I've never seen an automation that you don't have to go back and eventually fix. That doesn't mean that you don't need to use automations. What I'm saying to you is that with an autoresponder, if you keep things simple and you keep trying to use this as a way to make communication and to relate to your customer, you're going to see the most profit from what you're doing. So don't overcomplicate the process inside of Aweber. And we talk about this inside the Aweber technical course where you can see some of the step-by-step over-the-shoulder stuff. There really aren't a lot of components that you have to know how to do. Once you know how to do those things, you can use Aweber for your business. Just don't overcomplicate the process of doing email. Don't add too many elements. Aweber has a lot of stuff you can use. And what I suggest you do is you learn the basics and the elements. You start really using it to communicate with people. And so, yes, there's tracking in there. You can use that. But if you don't get around the tracking, you don't have to. There are automations in there. You can exist in using Aweber or any autoresponder without automations, believe it or not. These things will help you if you know how to do them, but you don't need to spend an inordinate amount of time trying to learn how to do them. Again, what you should be doing is trying to build a relationship with your customer on the other end of that email. Zapier. Zapier will allow you to connect Aweber to just about any other platform. And in some cases, what you're trying to do with Zapier is you're trying to take your email system, which is Aweber in this case, connect it to whatever sales system you have. So if you're selling things on ThriveCart, selling things on SamCart, selling things on, let's say, high level, you want to be able to put those customers directly into your email marketing inside of Aweber. Zapier tend to help you to do that. And there's an API with Aweber. Do you have to know how to use the API? Probably not. You can learn it. You can put things together for it. But again, remember, you're adding layers of complexity. When email marketing really does come back to you're trying to figure out who your customer is and what it is they need and what it is you can supply in order to get them to get it to them. Probably if you're going to do any one thing, make sure you're tagging people. Right. So if I could recommend you do anything, make sure you're tagging people. So that's if you've got to do any one thing, and that really does capture a lot of the complexity of segmenting if you have to do it in the future, of emailing people for different purposes who came into your list for different reasons. You can email them if you tag them. So tagging is the most beneficial thing that you can do in the technical end. Also, I mentioned in the course, you want to make sure you're setting up DKIM and DMARC. I'm not going to get into that tonight, but that is something that you want to do on the technical end. Assume that every part of the process you're going to be moved in this spam. This is kind of an important thing. You can spend an inordinate amount of time trying to make sure your email reaches the inbox, and that's a very important thing. But you've got to assume that it's going to land there. And what you've got to do is you've got to develop a bond so strong with a customer that they'll go and they'll fish it out of there, or they'll miss it and go looking for it. So if somebody comes to you and they say, well, you know what, I haven't seen your email for a long time, and they start looking for it because of what you provide to them on a daily basis or however often you email, that's a better way of basically making sure you inbox rather than focusing solely on all the technical factors. So this is not going to be a training on how you avoid the spam filter, how you avoid promotions tab. What you've got to do is build a bond with your customer. And you want to use email in order to do that. One thing that you can do is you use social media you don't use it to replace email. So it's not either or. What you're doing with your social media is, let's say that somebody doesn't get your email on a particular day, or it actually does go to spam. You want to make sure they go get it out of there. And if you are sending them messages on social media telling them what you talked about in that email, that's what you want to get, right? You don't necessarily want people focused in on your social media and not your email. So you want to encourage people in your social media to go to your email. That's really where you have a captive audience. You don't have a captive audience on social media, and social media platforms will change like the wind. They will change whenever some kind of pressure is placed on them for whatever reason. Doesn't have to be their fault, doesn't have to be your fault. But whenever they get pressure, they'll change things. And you don't want to put your business in their hands as a result of that. So what you're trying to do with your social media is you're trying to get people to recognize, well, hey, I missed something in an email today. I need to go get that email. Right? That's what you really want to encourage people to do. Now, I'm not saying that you don't, post things, do your behind the scenes, kind of, show people what your lifestyle is. That's all cool. But ultimately, what you're trying to do with those social media is you're trying to keep people focused on the place where you can talk to them exclusively. Social media, if you're talking to them, imagine talking to somebody and then there, let's say, three or four other people, each one standing in, in a different point around them. They're yelling at them, right? That's pretty much what social media is. And if you're able to get your message across, yeah, that's great. But you ultimately want to have that person on your email marketing list. Let's talk about email. Talk about USP. And I want to talk about email from these standpoints. I'm going to talk about this from 6 fundamental marketing principles because that's the easy way to organize what we're going to be talking about. That's the easy way for you to go back and to think through whether or not you're doing all the right things. If you can think through these fundamental marketing principles, if you understand them, then you will then be able to use and solve any business problem that you have. So we could take the same 6 principles and we can apply them to anything you're doing in your business. So the first principle is USP, unique selling proposition, which is basically I want to be able to know what it is that I do unique to everybody else on the internet. Or, what do you have to come to me to get that you cannot get elsewhere? What do you have to come to me to get that you would get even if even over and above doing nothing? Is what I have basically so valuable to you, so unique to you that you've got to come to me to get it, even if it's over and above doing nothing, right? So what is your USP? How do you do that in email? I'm going to suggest to you that the way you reinforce a USP, whatever it is, I'm not saying what it should be, whatever your USP is, whatever your unique selling proposition is, you reinforce that every day. And so when you do that, you don't have to tell people what it is. They will see it and they get it and they will hear it coming out of your words. They will see it in the things you talk about. They will see it in the way you do business. And that's the way you reinforce USP. You're not going to get it all back in one email. So it's not that you sent one email and that you told everybody how wonderful you are and this is how we do business and we're this is what we are. That's wonderful, but what you're really trying to do is you're trying to make sure you're reinforcing who you are and that they can only come to you to get certain things. That's what you're doing in USP. And you're going to have to write daily to do that. When you're true to your set of principles, that's a USP. So you've got a specific set of principles in your market or your niche, and those are the things you talk about, those are the things you stick to. That's USP, right? That's a way of doing business. And yes, again, you're reinforcing that every day, but that is a USP in email. The way you do business in email is your USP. So, what you deliver, how you deliver it. Those are going to be the kind of things you talk about when you are writing to people daily. Now, one thing I will tell you is that you need to get over talking about yourself. And you got to let people get to know you a little bit. And that may be difficult for you if you're a little shy or if you feel like I'm nobody for people to listen to. I don't necessarily think that's really the point. People want to do business with people. And so you've got to be willing to let people get to know you. And and so this is business. And so it's one thing you're going to have to do in order to make people know that you're not hiding behind some big company, right? You are talking to them about something they need. You're making recommendations to them, and you want them to listen to you, and you want them to know you're a real person. Here's something important that doesn't get mentioned a lot. What you know about your subscribers is your USP also. So you need to endeavor to use email in a way to try to find out who your subscribers are, right? You're talking to them on a regular basis. You're asking them different questions. You're trying to find out who they are. You're trying to discuss things with them. And so sometimes there's not a lot of people who are going to write you back about things. Now, some people tend to talk about things that make people write them back a lot, but you may not have a lot of people to write you back. Well, when you get an email back, uh, and you don't get a lot of them, take a little time to go ahead and have a discussion, right? Write something back, yeah, to have some dialogue. Now, I will tell you that things can get a little messy, but here's what happens in that discussion. You're getting to know them, right? And so that will become a USP to you because you will know that person in a way, and you will know something about all your customers in a way that you cannot find anyplace else. And it is a way that you're going to be doing business. Pro, right? So don't just take, somebody writes you back and they say, well, I've been in business for 10 years and this is what I do. Probe a little bit. What does that mean? What do you mean been in business 10 years? And some people are going to feel like, well, why is this person uh so intrusive? And they might be a little scared off, but you are trying to get to know them and you're trying to let them know that you want to know them. And it does get to the point sometimes where you might feel like that's a little pushy, and it is, right? But you need to probe a little bit so that you get to know your customer as much as they know you. One way to do it is you can just ask them well, hey, while I have you, tell me about your whatever your market or niche is. So if you're talking to them about business, say, hey, while I have you, tell me a little about your business. Why have you tell me a little bit about your diet? Why have you tell me a little bit about your exercise routine? Whatever your market is, ask them, hey, tell me a little bit about whatever it is that you're doing. That's what you want to do in your email. And again, now, if you're writing daily, this should not be a problem, right? Ask follow-ups and, be interested, genuinely be interested. I've read someplace that if you want to be considered as interesting, you have to be interested. And when you're interested in your customers and trying to find out who they are, you're trying to find out what it is that they're doing. When you sit down to write an email, all of those things are going to be revolving around in your head, what you learned from them. And then it'll make your email more interesting when you actually sit down to write. Catalog their responses. Now, this again might seem a little bit unnatural, but you need to do it. Now, in some cases, if they write back and it goes to your support, you can tag all of their responses so that they all go to the same place, they're all in the same area, and you can go back and you can kind of gather them, try to find out, well, what can I learn common from all of these responses? So you need to make sure you put them in some place where they're searchable, where you can kind of collate all the information. And these days, you should be able to take that database, put that in AI, and get the AI to tell you, well, what can I learn from these responses? We're going to talk about upsells and cross sells. This is what Jay Abraham calls exponential marketing. It's another fundamental marketing principles. And you might say, well, what does that have to do with email? You do need to get the double opt in by any means necessary. So sometimes what will happen is you will add someone to your email marketing list based on their purchase email. A lot of people keep separate emails. A lot of people keep separate emails that they purchase things with. You've got to try to get the double opt-in email that they use by any means necessary. So you promise them something when they get to your member area. Promise them something when they get to your thank you page. Don't assume you have it. Assume that you don't have it, right? And try to get it. Now, here's something that may be a little different than something that you've heard. When that person confirms their double opt-in, send them direct to an offer. Now, you might feel like, well, no, that I want to make sure I give them a warm up, and more than likely, you want them to know what you're about, right? So if you're going to be marketing with this email, this email list, then you need to dispel any notions. Sometimes what will happen is you will go through a sequence, a welcome sequence, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and you're giving value and you're teaching them stuff. If they're not bored by that, and you start presenting them with an offer on day 22, it's probably too late. And so what I would say is just get it out of the way. If people are going to be offended by it, then just let them go. Right? You could wait to test this, but if you're not going to do this, then just at minimum, see which one causes you to sell more. You might take a month and then you might just say, well, I'm not going to send people to an offer right away during this month, but next month I am. Right? Then compare the 2 months, see which one actually ends up so that you end up generating more income. Um, in other words, when it comes to upselling, cross-selling, once you have the first sale, right, you've captured that email address, you've got to make sure you get a good email, double opt-in. So if you have it, wonderful. If you don't, get it. And so typically all that really takes is that you're going to make them a promise that if they opt in, that you're going to give them something super cool. And then you don't give it to them until they've actually confirmed, right? Because I know some people, they will give them that freebie as soon as they hit the confirm button, but they never have to receive an email. So if you don't go through that next step of making sure they don't get it until they get the first email, then you're probably going to have a lot of people going sideways and opting out before they even get it, right? So at minimum, get a good email, follow up. So make sure you're writing daily, and then let people know what you're about. And what I mean by that again is send people to an offer early in the process. Don't wait. And now again, you might feel differently about that, but you want to try to get people and let them know what it is you're doing as soon as you can. Um, one thing you can do to kind of if you don't want to do a welcome sequence, and again, I don't suggest that you keep people 3 weeks in limbo. If you're going to make them offer on day 22, one thing that you could do is you can say, well, you can record what I call a "You Are Here" video. So you could say, well, here's the things I'm going to be talking about. You're going to start getting emails every day. Here are the offers I'm going to be sending. Here's why I send them. Here's where you can find all the links. Here's what we're about. You can do one video. Yeah, but again, don't wait to start sending people to an offer, because what you're going to have people doing is running off of your list as soon as they get that email. Right now, um, the point of having an email list is not to sit back and admire it. It's nice to see those numbers grow. It's nice to see the numbers going rising in number, but that's not what it's for. It's not for you to have bragging rights. The point of having a list is generate income. So that's what you're doing. You're working. So when you get an email, that's part of your business. It's part of your job. It's work. And so if you're going to do some work with it, then you need to generate income from it. You're going to have people unsubscribe. So you can't control whether or not somebody likes you or not. You have no control over that. You can't control whether or not they're bored. You can't control whether or not they're offended. You can't control any of that. You're going to have people unsubscribe. And so you can't control that. So you don't need to try to control it. And what you're doing is you're writing to the people who want your help. Right? You're going to run people off. And so that's what you're going to have to do, and be willing to you're going to have to embrace that part of it. And you don't run your list based on what you don't do. So in other words, you say, well, we don't send people offers every day. Well, you don't want to run your list that way, right? Again, that list is there. It's work. It's part of your business, part of your job. It's there to help you to generate income with the people that want to hear from you. It's not for the people who don't want to hear from you. So don't write to the people who don't want to hear from you. Don't try to keep them on your list. Don't try to keep placating them. So, well, I don't like them. It's an offer all the time. Okay, well then, wonderful. Then you can go to someplace else, right? And it's nothing personal, but in order to do business, you've got to do business with people that you want to be. Now, you might want to be a little more pleasant, right? That doesn't mean that you're going to be unpleasant. Doesn't mean that you're just going to just kind of burn them out, right? But you want to be there for them in a way that they will be there for you. Now, when it comes to your list building, the one thing I said at the beginning, tag everything for every reason. So every time you get a chance to tag somebody, tag them, right? They're coming through your sales system, tag them. They're coming through an opt-in page, tag them. Tag them with everything. So go crazy with tags. You cannot use tags enough. Every little way that your list interacts with you, tag them. Right? They do any one thing, tag them with little things. Right? You might think, well, having all these tags is a hindrance. Actually, it's not. Because if you try to say, well, everybody that clicked this one link, I want to be able to send them an email if they didn't, if they didn't do anything else after that. If you don't tag them on the basis of these things, then you don't have that information. So try to find a way to tag everybody for every little thing. Now, your customer doesn't care if you tag them, right? They don't even know if you're tagging, right? They'll never, and I'm not saying that you're trying to hide things from them. What I'm saying is you're not offending anybody by tagging people. You're the only one that ever see the tags. So your customers are going to see it. Nobody's going to know. You're using this to serve the people who are buying from you. Let's talk about direct response. And I'm going to say that before you go using AI, and I know Aweber has an AI, we go over that in the course. We show you how to use the AI in order to write an email. Now, that does not mean that your emails are going to make sales just because you got an AI to do it. Doesn't mean that your AI even knows. You can write an AI, you can ask an AI to write this in the style of John Carlton or some famous copywriter. It's going to do the best it can, but it's not going to be able to do that. You need to know direct response. And so, if you're trying to make sales with your email, even if you get an AI to help you to write, you need to understand what direct response is. You can buy Ultimate Marketing Plan and read it. Ultimate Sales Letter by Dan Kennedy. That's also a good book. Influence by Robert Cialdini, right? Excellent book. Secrets of Closing the Sale by Zig Ziglar. Also an excellent book. So there are lots of good books on copywriting. You've got to understand what direct response is so that when it's being done for you, you're having emails written for you. If you're using the AI, you've got to know what to change about it and what it needs if you're going to have it to make money for you. Because the AI doesn't know details, so it can't know those things. All it knows is what is written about Dan Kennedy. So if you try to say, well, write this in the style as Dan Kennedy would do. Well, you can't do that with an AI. It only knows what other people have said about them. It doesn't have his own books. You need to understand direct response for yourself. So it can get closer to where you might be, but it's not going to get all the way there. There's no substitute for knowing details, though, about your customers. And you'll even hear that in Ultimate Sales Letter by Dan Kennedy. You got to get to know your customers. And that kind of goes back to what I said there at the beginning. Trying to learn about them, trying to figure out why they're why are they on your list, right? What are they trying to do? What are they trying to accomplish? At random. And I'm going to give you a rule. Let's just say for a rule. Every day, ask at least one person what they're doing. Learn about them. Write a customer at random. So if somebody writes you in support, let's say you get one support email, write that person back and say to them, hey, well, while I have you, tell me what your business is. Tell me what you're doing. What are you doing with this thing? Right? Try to learn about them because there's no substitute for you learning and knowing your customers when you're sending email. And quite honestly, if you know who they are and what they're trying to accomplish, you don't need a big email list. So, you're thinking, well, I gotta have, I don't have 10 gazillion people on my email list. There are people with perfectly small lists who know their customers, who know what they're about, who can outsell people with big lists who are burning them out every day. Right? So get to know the people who are on your list. It's just and also, and this is a very important point. I hinted at this early on. It's almost just as important that you know them as it is for them to know you, right? So you want them, you want to know them, and you want them to know you know them. And so you do that when you write every day in your emails. So emails are four core to sport. If you're thinking about sports, you're looking about basketball, or I guess what soccer's 3 periods. It's 3 periods. You're not gonna get everything back in one email. Right? You're not gonna make it all in one email. So what you're trying to do is you're really trying to make sure that over time, right, you're developing a relationship, you know and understand them, and you're delivering to them an experience that's a relationship. So don't try to make it all happen in one email, right? It's a sprint. I mean, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So take your time, get to know people. Yes, every day you should be making an offer, but don't try to make it all happen in one email at one particular time. Educational marketing is another fundamental marketing principle. Um, Now, if you're selling information, ultimately, right, your goal is going to be to get people into your information product, right? That's ultimately what you're trying to do. And what that means is that you got to know and understand what it is you sell and what it is that you're helping the customer to do. Don't spill your guts in the email. Don't tell them about everything that's going to be in your. I mean, don't teach the whole thing in email that you're going to put in your product, right? And quite honestly, there's certain things that you can't teach in an email that you can only teach in a course. And so you're trying to get people to understand that they need it, but you're not trying to use the email to show them how smart you are. If that's what you're doing, if you're trying to say, well, if they know how wonderful I am, they know how cool I am, they know how smart I am, they're going to say, oh, I want what's inside their product. Actually, that's not the way people's minds work. What their minds work is, well, let me go try let me go try everything that they told me to do in this email first before I go buy something. And so that's ultimately not what you want to do. Don't spill your guts, right? Don't tell them everything in the email. Uh, it's very common amongst internet marketers to go and get swipes. And don't just take a swipe and put it in your email and send it out. First of all, it's probably going to go to spam because that's what most people are going to do anyway. But really, it's not really all that effective. So if you're going to try to get people into an information product, don't just take a swipe, put it in your autoresponder and send it out. Try to ask for a response. And this is a recurring theme in multiple principles. You're trying to find out what people are struggling with. And so ask for responses. Talk to people as much as you can. In your emails, one thing that you can do if you're going to be an educational marketer, and you should, give people at least one actionable item. So again, I'm giving you parameters, kind of giving you some goalposts. So on the one end, don't spill your guts. On the other end, give them at least one actionable item, at least one. That's what you want to try to do. And this is kind of a more of a Dan Kennedy notion than anything else, but it's true. Disagree with the norm. So try to find out where you deviate from the norm. Everybody's doing this one thing, but you don't believe in it. Say it, right? Say in the email. Trust me, it's going to get you in trouble with people. Trust me that someone's going to get back to somebody and somebody's going to write you and say, are you talking about me? And you're going to say, no, I just disagree with this one thing. So you're trying to find at least one thing that everybody does, disagree with it, right? Let people know you disagree with it. Let people know why you disagree with it. And do it in a way that lets people know that you understand what it is they're trying to do, right? So anything that you're doing, as an educational marketer, as an information marketer, what you're basically doing is you are telling people there is a reason that you need to keep reading. If you don't disagree with anything and everything, you just kind of parroting all the same lines. And I know why you do that, right? Why you do that. You want to make sure you're accurate. You want to make sure that, if you don't really know everything there is in an area, you want to go and learn it. You want to teach it the right way. And so what you don't want to do is you don't want to steer anybody wrong. You don't want them feeling like they got wrong information from you. So that part of it is understandable. Why you want to make sure that you're telling people things that are normal, so that you make sure you get it right. On the other end, there's no reason for me to have to keep reading your email if you're just going to tell me something I could have read on the internet. Right? If everything you're saying is something that's already been said, then I don't have to keep reading. Right? Eventually, I'm going to figure out that I can go find out about this someplace else, and I don't have to listen to this man, this woman write to me on a daily basis. I can go and just watch a YouTube video, and I'll get that same information. And some people's minds are going to think like that. So you've got to take something that is commonly accepted in your marketplace. And there's always something, right? There's always something that everybody else is wrong about. There's always going to be something that everybody else is doing that if you just do the opposite, and again, that is something that I think Dan Kennedy got from Earl Nightingale, that if everybody else is doing something, that you got to think about real hard that maybe you don't need to do that. Right? So disagree with the norm and then test for feedback, right? Always be testing for feedback. And then, I mean, use your conversations with people to create new information products. So you're going to learn things about people, and people are going to tell you things, and people are going to say, hey, I'm trying to do this, and I'm trying to figure this part out. Well, that's all good information. And that's why you really want to have conversations with people, even if they disagree with you. Sometimes, even if it's unpleasant and people write to complain, have conversations with them, because if they will tell you what they're trying to do. They will reveal to you what you need to create. And typically, the best products you'll create are going to be those that come from conversations that you have with your customer, that you didn't start out with that as a conversation, but it came as a result of them writing you on the basis of something they read from you in the first place. Okay, are there any questions? Any questions? I think I'm going to check the chat here. Let me check the chat here. Okay, so Santu's asking, when you are going to give them something super, no, okay, yeah, good question. So let's say we're talking about your thank you page, and you probably have already collected their email address when they bought it, right? And so you want to get that email address regardless. So if you're using ThriveCart, always collect that email address into something, and it's better than nothing. So get that. What you're trying to do is to get the double opt-in email address of their best, most reliable email. And typically, if you give them something, you promise them something really cool, they will give you that address because they want that to be reliable in order to get that thing. Now, there's some people who will have, who will go through great motions to, well, I put all my junk email over here. Well, that's all fine, right? So nothing you can do about that. So you tell them what it is, and you show them what it is. And one thing I'm going to talk about, I think, when I do the Screencast University DFY Live Masterclass is I am starting to feel like if you put a GIF on that on the page. So in other words, the GIF is a dynamic image. So it's kind of showing different scenes. And it kind of makes people pay attention to what it is that the GIF is doing, and it should represent what they're going to get. So yes, you should tell them what it is. Unrestricted rights to my, 10 video course on, grief management, right? And so whatever it is, right? So you give it, you tell them what it is, and then to represent it, it should be a GIF maybe of part of the course, right? So it's kind of changing, and people zone in on the on the image, right? That's a good question. Okay, so after they opt into your lead magnet, you sell them something like this. Okay, it doesn't have to be $97, but yeah, okay, yeah. So let's say they opt in. I would send them something low ticket, and that's probably a good distinction to make. Whatever low ticket is. Now, people are used to paying $3,000 or $4,000, right, for stuff. And $97 is a low ticket. So yes, they hit the confirm button, and then they will get your cool thing. but that confirm button takes them to an offer. Should be low ticket. So, and you can make it a special, right? You can say, normally this is $97. I'm going to sell it to you for 18 today, whatever the case, right? Yeah. Um, so you kind of want people to know that this is what's going to be about. You care about them. They're going to get that freebie, and when they get that freebie, right, you're going to, talk to them a little bit and kind of tell them, share with them a little bit. But they would have seen that offer, and they would have. It's a visual, and it's a way of saying this is not a charity, right? Good question. All right. Any other questions? All right, everybody. Well, thank you for hanging out with me here. I appreciate you all. Just a few things here. Our friend at Fire Launchers, they've got some kind of keto thing. I might actually get this, right? Because I'm always looking for these keto recipes, and I might just get a copy for myself just to see what's in it. And then there is our friends at Tools for Motivation. Justin and you can get their newest thing, and then also now Dan and Dave. I typically don't do promotions for them. They normally don't ask me, first of all, but this thing's a little unique, and yeah, what I will say to you is that if it's about how to create a PLR product. And if you're watching me right now, I say this in all sincerity, and this is no shade at anybody else. I only trust me to tell you um, how to process all this. And so, if you're going to get this, if this was on your radar to get, and you're going to get it, my bonus is going to be a little short audio telling you how to make this. What I say on the page is how to make it a forever PLR product, right? And so you need to hear what I got to say about this, is what I'll tell you. So if you weren't going to get this, you don't want to know how to create a PLR product, you don't want to launch a PLR product, then let it pass, right? Don't get distracted to this because then you're putting yourself in the same market as I am. But if you're going to do it, then you do need to have my bonus for this, right? Again, I'm going to just let you know it's going to be a little audio, maybe about 5 minutes. I'm going to tell you exactly one thing to make your thing unique and make it sell, right? So there's that. So Santu's question is Justin's topic. Oh boy, you asked a great question. I can't remember what it is, Santu. Let's see. Um, I think it is embrace risk to achieve more success and fulfillment in life. Okay, Dan and Dave's thing, the plrshow.com/Dan and Dave. And Justin's thing is called, it's got a long name, Embrace Risk to Achieve More Success and Fulfillment in Life. So good direct response title. Let's see, the link for Justin's thing is the plrshow.com/Justin P. DIR. It's really for Justin Popovic Direct, but it's Justin P. DIR. Right? plrshow.com/Justin P. DIR. Yep. All right. Yep. Anytime. But okay, everybody. Well, again, I appreciate you all being on these things because it's easier for me to do these uh, um, when there are people who are on the call, and I certainly don't mind answering questions. So it gives me an opportunity to answer questions and to do some of the things I talked about in the session. Okay, so Justin's thing is like I think it's like 3 days, and then I think Dan and Dave's thing goes about 6 days, right? Oh, good, good. I'm glad to hear that, Karen. Thank you. Thank you. Really glad to hear that. Well, everybody, thanks for hanging out with me here. Appreciate you all being here. Have a great night. And please, is PLR always limited time? No, it's not always limited time. Um, it's typically limited time before the price goes up. And so I don't know if Justin is saying, I don't know if he's saying the price is going to go up in 3 days. Uh, but that's typically what it's always going to be because what we do is a launch period. Now you're an ultimate insider, so it doesn't really account for you, Santu, but so we have a launch period because the regular price is $27 for a PLR. When I launch it, all right, I do a launch price. And I generally don't discount. I only discount for Ultimate Insider. So that's a limited time. So typically it's a 6 day period for me. I think for Justin's thing, he is like 4 days, right? I think and it could be that he's saying he's gonna raise the price then. It'll still be available, it'll just raise the price then. So that's probably what's happening here. Yep. So if you're gonna launch your own course, you uh PLR, you probably do want to have a launch price and you want to make sure it's clear as to when the launch deal is over. And I would recommend that you don't discount after that. So a lot of people do bundles and stuff like that. I don't necessarily like doing that. I don't recommend any PLR seller do it, but they don't ask me for advice. So um, okay. So with that, thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate y'all hanging out. Have a great night and a pleasant tomorrow. Take care. Oh man, so how do you end this? Okay, so